the very best fragrances from Paris Corner. I've got 13 here. It's supposed to be 12, but I just couldn't help myself. But I don't have my entire Paris Corner collection. There's a few, maybe some of the older ones that I don't think are worthy to appear in a list like this because they're just not any good. But these right here are actually all going to be really good. Now we're going to dive into this, but before we do, please consider giving the like button a spray with your very favorite Paris Corner fragrance. Also remember to subscribe if you haven't done that. Let's go ahead and jump in. All right, these are kind of in order of my personal preference and also kind of, you know, from worst to best, but all of them are actually pretty good, and it's hard to kind of draw that line between which one's the best and which one's my favorite, but I'm going to do my best. All right, so we're going to start with this one right here. It is the lowest on the list, not because it's a bad fragrance, but just because they get better and better as we go. This one is a clone of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry, and it is Pendora Scents Boozy Cherry. As you know, Pendora Scents, Emir, several others are sort of lines within the Paris Corner brand, and so Pendora Scents, which you'll see over and over, is one of their brands. The only thing that I would say about this one that would make it lower on the list is there is a particular synthetic vibe in this fragrance that it just stands out to me. You know, Tom Ford fragrances are typically pretty high quality, and side by side, there's really no contest. But if you want something that smells like Lost Cherry, you like a sweet, tart cherry fragrance, this one is not too bad, and you can usually get it nowadays, even on Amazon, for like 30 bucks. I'll put links to those that I can find a good price for in the description. This next one, this is a clone of one of my favorite by Kilian's fragrances. This is a clone of Kilian's Intoxicated, and it's Emir, You're Drugged. And now the Intoxicated OG is, again, a Kilian fragrance. They do incredibly high quality niche perfumery, and they do booziness in a way that really nobody else does. This one, there is going to be a quality difference, but there's also something about the coffee note in this one. I think it's a little too strong. There's a little too much coffee in this one for it to be like just an absolutely amazing clone of Intoxicated. But if you like that spiced Turkish coffee, you know, there's not many things that smell like this except for maybe like Amen by Mugler. Go ahead and pick this one up because it's still quite good, even though it's lower on my list. Emir, You're Drugged. All right, this next one. Now, from what I understand, I haven't tried the original of this one, but it's a really good clone of Ganymede. This one is Emir Celestial. And the only reason it's not higher on the list is because I don't, whenever I think about like fragrances I'm just addicted to and go back to over and over again, this is not one of them. Although I will tell you, the more I have worn this, the more that I've liked it. And what I usually do is layer this with an aromatic blue fragrance. And that to me is an excellent, excellent combo because this is basically the smell of wet rocks. It's orange and saffron and some leathery kind of, there's some resins in here that give a little bit of a leathery feel, but it kind of smells like wet rocks. It's very interesting, but just not one of my favorite fragrances, Emir Celestial. All right. Next up, now we're heading more and more into ones that I like more and more as we go. And this one I like a lot, but I just have a number of things that smell pretty similar. This one is a clone of Arabian's Tonka by Santal. This is Noir Darab by Pendora Scents. And it is basically a sugary, sweet, spiced oud. And it's the synthetic oud like you would get in something like Oud for Greatness or Oud for Glory, one of the clones, or even something not too different than Mocha Wood by Fragrance World, if you tried that one. It's just a very strong textured oud with a good bit of sweetness. This one doesn't have the chocolate of Mocha Wood, but it's definitely in the same family. And if you want a dark, sweet oud fragrance, Noir Darab, go ahead and pick it up. Let me know what you think. All right, this next one, this one's a fairly new pickup. This one is a very interesting, fresh fragrance. It's a clone of Bulgari's Aqua Amara. This is Pandora Amorist. And it is a citrus, it's got citrus in the top with a little bit of sweetness. And then it goes into sort of the smell of the seashore. It's like a salty, aquatic kind of fragrance with a seaweed note, and there is something in it that literally will remind you of standing by the seashore. Aqua Amara means bitter water, and this does have a little bit of a bitteriness. Bitteriness, is that a word? I don't think it is, but but it's a very interesting fragrance. Again, the more I wear it, the more I like it. If you like Aqua Amara, this one right here, Pandora Amorist, is going to be a great pickup. All right, this next one is not actually a clone. It is a collaboration between Paris Corner and Aroma Concepts, and this thing is a watermelon candy bomb. I've been talking about it a lot lately. This one is called Batik, and it's basically like a watermelon blow pop with, about 20 minutes in, a greenness starts to come out. The philosophy behind the fragrance was to give you the feeling of walking into a garden with watermelon growing. And you do get something like that, although the watermelon is more on the candy side rather than the natural side. Super interesting. I've been layering it with some green heavy fragrances, and it's pretty cool. Some would say it leans too feminine for them. I would totally understand that. But hey, if watermelon candy sounds good to you, then you got to pick it up. It's cheap as well. It's quite inexpensive. All right, this next one. This one is sort of right in the middle of the list, exactly in the middle of the list. From what I understand, this one is an amazing clone of the original. Steven over at Red Essence said it's 98% similar to the original. And I do usually trust what he has to say about fragrances. Now this one, I don't personally like the smell of. This is another one. I'll let you know as we go if I haven't smelled the original. And this is one that I haven't smelled the original. It's a clone of Santal 33 by Le Labo. This is Rich Santal. It's basically a dry, woody fragrance. There's a little bit of spice, a little bit of cardamom. There is a papyrus note, which think, papyrus, they used to make that kind of woody paper out of. It smells the way that you would imagine papyrus smells, mixed with sort of a dry woodiness, very little sweetness, very little sweetness, very little spice. But it's a pretty cool fragrance. Apparently this is like a hipster fragrance. A lot of kind of the hipster culture really digs Santal 33. It's supposed to be a really good clone. All right, next up, we're going into kind of the top tier now. I've got 6 left, and these are all just really good. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this one first. All right, so this next one. This one's a clone of a discontinued 1 million flanker. A lot of people's favorite 1 million flanker. This is a dupe of a 1 million Privé. This is Milano PR by Pendora Scents. This basically has a little bit of the original 1 million in there, but 1 million's got a touch of tobacco. This one's got a little more tobacco, and it's got more cinnamon. This kind of smells like a cinnamon roll. It reminds me of some of the dupes that I have of Angel Share. Not all that close to Angel Share, definitely in the same family, but if you want a cinnamon heavy, tobacco forward 1 million flanker, you can't buy the original anymore, but this one is reasonably priced now. You can find it readily available, Milano PR. And this next one, this one is a clone of some people's favorite tobacco fragrance. It's a very kind of easy to wear tobacco. It's one that even works in spring and warmer weather, maybe even in the summer, as long as you're not wearing it out in 100-degree heat. But it's a more mild tobacco fragrance. It's a beautiful, gorgeous fragrance. I'm talking about Xerjoff Naxos, and this one is Voux Elegante by Paris Corner Emir. And so this one's got a honeyed tobacco as sort of the star of the show. It's also got some vanilla. You've got a little bit of spice in there. It is, again, a very wearable tobacco fragrance, and one that would be a great introduction to tobacco fragrances. It's a gorgeous fragrance, an addictive fragrance, Voux Elegante, clone of Xerjoff Naxos. All right, this next one, this is one of my favorite freshies, and this clone actually lasts longer on my skin than the name brand fragrance actually does. This is a clone of Mancera's Sedrat Boisé, and they did a pretty good job with this one. This one is, of course, Emir Sedrat Essence, and this is just a bright fruit explosion. You've got some citrus, you've got some black currant, you've got, I think, even a touch of pineapple. Someone mentioned that recently on a video or on a comment. I need to go look it up to verify. But you've got all that bright fruitiness, then you've got some woods, and you've got some leather as you go towards the mid and the dry down. Very interesting. In a similar family as Creed Aventus, although it doesn't smell like Aventus. It's gorgeous. It's the perfect spring and summer fragrance. You've got to get this one if you don't have it or the original. Again, Sedrat Essence, very much a mass-pleasing fragrance as well. All right, next, now we're getting into my top three, and these could really be in any order on any day. All three of these I am in love with. I go back to them over and over and over again. This one is a clone of K. Ali Yum Pistachio. This one is Paris Corner Care Pistachio. This is a bright, sweet, gourmand fragrance. Now it is, it's got pistachio obviously, but it's pistachio gelato. It's also got like cotton candy. It's got vanilla. It's got some fruits in the opening. It's definitely a sweet gourmand fragrance. It's got a lot of super sweet notes. Whipped cream is a note in there, but there's also a kind of brightness that I've been wearing it throughout the spring and loving it. Even if it's like 85 degrees outside, it works for me. I'm just not going to stay out in the heat sweating. It would be cloying. But again, Care Pistachio, gorgeous fragrance. I have not smelled the original, but from what I understand, it's pretty close to the original. But this stuff is so good, and this is another one I would say some guys would say it's too feminine for them. That's understandable. All right, this next one, I'm telling you, these are like some of my favorite fragrances I own, and they're like $30 to $35 clones. This one is a clone of Mancera's Red Tobacco. It is so ridiculously good. I'm talking about Wild and Tobacco. It's not identical to the Mancera, but it's quite close. The opening of this one, it's just maybe a touch sweeter. It's not as abrasive, but it still captures the powerful tobacco, spicy, sweet, somewhat abrasive, sort of loud. It's just, you know, there's a certain insanity to this fragrance that if somebody really likes tobacco fragrances, it's got a touch of oud in there. It's got a good dose of patchouli in there. It's got a little bit of leather in there. It's all of these dark, rich notes mixed with some powerful sweetness and a lot of spice, cinnamon and other spices. It's just so very good. Wild and Tobacco by Paris Corner Emir. And finally, this next one. This one is a clone of Mancera's Tonka Cola, one of their most popular releases of recent years. And this one is remarkable. It's amazing. This is Cherry Cola by Paris Corner Emir. And it is, you know, you could tell by the name, a little more cherry forward than the Mancera is. But somehow they take a lemon note and some cinnamon and just some spiciness, and they somehow make this effervescent, sparkling vibe. They mix it with a cola note, which I don't know how they make that, but it literally smells like you have your face over a glass of sparkling, fizzy cherry cola. It's remarkable. I love when texture and fragrances do like amazing things. You're like, how in the world do they do that? This one has that. It's got that bubbly, sparkly, effervescent cherry cola vibe. It is so very good. You know, sweet, spicy, gorgeous. I love it. So this has been 13 of, I think, some of the best Paris Corner fragrances. They've been exploding over the past year. You know, a couple years ago, I wouldn't have even said that they were one of my favorite clone houses, but they have become one of my favorite clone houses. And I've got others I need to pick up from them as well. But let me know in the comments, what is your favorite or maybe even your top 3 from Paris Corner. Remember to please spray the like button with your very favorite Paris Corner fragrance. And remember to subscribe if you haven't. I'm Justin. This is Sedrat Essence.